All right, what's up, guys? Ready to finish chapter 18. We're going to talk about the actual digestive process today. But first, yes, where we go. I'm absolutely repping my Broncos today. That's for you, Grayson and Howie. Let's go. At least it's not football season. That would be tragic. Anyway, here we go. So, pathways and functions are a big part of what we're going to talk about. The pathway of food, obviously we start in the mouth. You have to chew your food. From there, it goes down this long tube called the esophagus. Let me get the pen going here. All right, goes down the esophagus, and then it enters into stomach, okay? From the stomach, we go to the small intestines, and that actually routes back here, and then that goes through all this squiggly stuff. The small intestines are actually much longer than large intestines, but their diameter is much smaller. From the small intestines, we go into the large intestines, and we enter over on this side, okay? Your intestines are also called, the large intestines are also called your colon. And so as the food that's being digested, it's not quite poop yet, but it's getting there. As it goes up, that's referred to as the ascending colon. As it goes across here, that's the transverse colon, and then lastly we have the descending colon. You don't need to know that, it's just some extra information. That's all considered the large intestine. And by the time you get to that descending colon there, that section of the large intestines, it's definitely poop. So you could have quite a bit of poop kind of stored up in there. From the large intestines, we go to the rectum, and this is inside of your body, okay? This is the last little bit of the large intestines, okay? And then the opening, the actual exit valve, so to speak, for this digestive system would be the anus, okay? More commonly referred to as your butthole, but that's not the scientific word, okay? Functions of the digestive system. We've got three main functions. Obviously, digestion itself is a huge part of this, and just for the purposes of the digestive system, digestion means to break food into smaller pieces. There's two types of digestion that we're going to talk about on the next page, but let's just stick to this function here. So first function is digestion. Second is absorption. The reason we eat and the reason our body breaks down the food is so we can get the nutrients from it. Well, those nutrients need to be taken up into the body, and they're actually taken out of the digestive system and then put into the circulatory system. Okay? You're going to find as we go through all these body systems that so many of them work together. They're very closely interlinked. The circulatory system wouldn't have anything to transport if we didn't get the proper nutrients. Those nutrients wouldn't have anywhere to go if the circulatory system couldn't transport them. So they both work together. And then our last function is elimination. Through the process of digestion, there's a lot of waste that your body doesn't need, and it stays in the system, and it's eventually eliminated from your body. Hey, look at that. Need some extra toilet paper? All right, moving on. Let's see. Just some additional vocab here. I told you there's two types of digestion. So we've got mechanical digestion, where the food is physically being broken down. That takes place in your mouth as you're chewing. Okay, you take a bite out of something, you've already made it into a smaller piece. You keep chewing it, you're breaking it down into smaller pieces. But that mechanical digestion also takes place in your stomach. Your stomach squeezes the food, and it breaks it down into smaller pieces. Okay, but most of the digestion that's important is that chemical digestion, and that's the stomach acids, that's the actual chemicals breaking apart the molecules, and that actually starts in your mouth. If you did that cracker experiment the other day, that's chemical digestion. It takes place in your stomach, and it takes place in your intestines, but most of it actually takes place in your small intestines, not your stomach, surprisingly. Peristalsis, and you can pause this and get this stuff written down into your notes. I know I'm talking really fast. I don't want to bore you with a 20-minute video, though, so pause it when you need to. Peristalsis is, it's the smooth muscle in your digestive system, and it kind of squeezes the food through. If you can think of a tube of toothpaste, when it gets to the end, you kind of squeeze it or you roll it up. That's what these smooth muscles in your esophagus and in your intestines does. It just squeezes, and it's continuing to push that digested material all the way through your system. Okay, let's see. Oh, my favorite body part, the epiglottis. This is one of those things that just, it shows me what an amazing designer God was. Okay, so if you look at this diagram here, okay, we've got two tubes, okay? We've got this tube right here and this tube right there. The one in the front, the one that I put the area on, that's actually your windpipe. That's your trachea. So when you inhale, the air goes down into your trachea. The one in the back that I circled, that's your esophagus, okay? So your mouth leads to both of those tubes, all right? When you swallow food, this little flap of tissue right here, and let's see, I think I can move myself. Yes, there I go, hi. That's the epiglottis, okay? I hope I'm still recording. The epiglottis is this flap of tissue that literally closes down. So when you swallow, it closes and it covers the trachea to keep food from getting into your respiratory system. This is why sometimes when you're talking too much or you're laughing with your friends, you choke on your food because that epiglottis doesn't quite have a chance to close down, and the little bits of food get into that larynx there. Pretty cool. That's the epiglottis. Anyway, moving on. Let me go back. You got to get mucus too. Let me move myself back down to the corner here. All right. Mucus is, well, it's mucus. You know what mucus is. It's a thick, gooey substance that comes out of your nose, but it also coats the inner lining of your entire digestive system. It protects your stomach from the stomach acids. It keeps it from digesting itself, and so your body just continues to produce all of that. All right. The digestive system from start to finish, from your mouth all the way to your anus, is a continuous tube. And if you kind of lay it out like this, you could think of it as just a really long hose. It's shoved into your body a little bit tighter than that, but it is still continuous. Okay, it's kind of a weird concept. If you think of a donut, okay, you've got a nice little donut, you've got the hole through the donut. Okay, is that donut hole part of the donut or not? Is it inside the donut or is it outside the donut? Well, if you stretch that donut and make it longer, you're going to have a tube in the middle, right? Is that tube part of the donut or not? And that's kind of our digestive system. It's this tube that runs all the way through our body, from our mouth to the bottom. Is it part of our body or not? And of course it is. It's inside of our body, but this hollow part, this tube, is very protective, and so the food you eat, it's not in your body, and so this is why some things can just go right through your body. Kids eat pennies and they're fine. Obviously, some poisons and things are soaked up; they are absorbed through the system, so it's not foolproof. But bacteria, if bacteria gets into your digestive system, you probably won't get sick. Food poisoning is different. I'm talking about like things that cause colds and viruses, coronavirus. If it gets into your digestive system, it's not going to get into your body because your body will take care of it. The stomach. The stomach has these 3 layers of different kind of muscles, and they're kind of overlapped like this. And the smooth muscle, again, that squeezes like that and helps digest the food. You can see they're called sphincters. They're these little rings of muscles at the beginning and at the end of the stomach. If you've ever thrown up before, you probably have, the contents of your stomach and that acid push through that sphincter and it goes up your esophagus, and that's why it burns. Okay, it burns your throat a little bit because you get that acid with it. If you've ever had heartburn, or if you've heard somebody talk about heartburn, that muscle, that sphincter, opens up sometimes when it's not supposed to, and some of that stomach acid gets up here into the esophagus, and it burns. That's why it's called heartburn. It has nothing to do with your heart itself. It's just the location of it is close to your heart. Okay. All right, so let's go back and talk about absorption a little bit. Absorption is taking those nutrients into your bloodstream, and most of that takes place in the small intestines. Okay, now your small intestines have these things called villi. Okay, go ahead and get that written down. And these villi are these little finger-like projections that increase the surface area of your intestines. Okay, this is an actual microscopic picture of them, and you can kind of see those little finger-like projections up there. Okay, well, look at those hands up there. If I draw around the outside of this hand, there's not very much surface area, right? But if I open up the fingers and I draw around each one, suddenly have a much longer line. Okay, there's much more surface area. And so the inside of your small intestines aren't smooth like that. They're actually more ripply like that. Okay? But then even on a microscopic level, if I take one of these, it's going to have those finger-like projections coming off of it as well. So one of these finger-like projections is going to actually have all of these little villi coming off of it, and then there's another one. Okay? And now that I'm writing this, I realize I'm going to be in the way of my next fun fact for you. If you laid out your small intestines absolutely flat, if you stretched out all those projections, all those little finger-like structures, it would actually be as large as a tennis court. That's what that says that I covered up there. Your small intestines, right inside your belly, would be as large as a tennis court. It's another one of God's amazing designs. And inside of these villi, inside of these are little tiny blood vessels, these capillaries, and that's what soaks up the nutrients. It's wild. It's so cool. All right. In addition to all those organs that I've already listed, there's some accessory organs that are very much a part of the digestive system, but food doesn't actually pass through them. All right. So we've got the liver. It's this big organ up here. Okay. You can see there's the liver on our poster back there. The liver just helps break down toxins, vitamins, medicines. It's kind of a filter for your blood to take those things out. It also produces something called bile, which I'll define for you in just a second. In addition to the liver, we have the gallbladder. That's this little green balloon-looking thing right here. And it's just a storage area for that bile, okay? So the liver produces the bile, and it goes into these little green ducts right here. It gets stored in the gallbladder, and then when it's needed, it goes down into the intestines right there. And what it's needed for is it helps digest fats, okay? Chances are you know somebody that's had their gallbladder removed. You can totally live without it. Your liver still produces the bile. It just goes directly into the small intestines. There's not a on-deck circle anymore, okay? And then finally we have the pancreas. The pancreas is this funky looking organ right here, and it actually produces a hormone called insulin, which we talked about earlier in the year. Our cells need glucose to function. The insulin is almost like the key that opens up the cell to the glucose. It allows us to use that glucose. When people are diabetic, one of the problems they have is that their pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. That's one type of diabetes, okay? I guess that's it. Good luck to you guys. I've got some other stuff, some assignments for you, so be looking for that on Edmodo, okay? Talk soon. Bye.